Hello and welcome back to Math Class with Mr. Kura. Today we're going to start a new unit that's composed of some geometry stuff. And we're going to first talk about some different kinds of angles. We're going to talk about supplementary angles, complementary angles, the triangle sum theorem, and vertical angles. So first of all, supplementary angles. What is a supplementary angle? A supplementary angle is when we have two angles that add up. They add up to 180 degrees. So an example of that would be we have something like this. And let's say this angle is 50 degrees. So if this angle is 50, and this is 180, this straight line, this whole thing like this. This whole angle is 180 degrees. So if that whole thing is 180 and this little portion right here is 50, what does that leave us with for this other part here? What would this angle have to be? Well, if this is 50, the whole thing's 180, that leaves us 80 minus 180 minus 50, 130 degrees for that angle. So that would be how we kind of use it, and what a supplementary angle is adds up to 180 degrees. Now let's look at complementary angles. Complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. So once again, if I took this and I were to split that, and if the whole thing here is 90, that's what this means, 90 degrees. When we see this box in the corner, that means 90 degrees. Okay, so that's 90 degrees. Well, if this little portion down here, let's say this is 20 degrees, this is 20 degrees, then how much would this part be? Well, same thing, our whole thing is 90, we already have 20 accounted for here, so that leaves us 70, so this part would be 70 degrees. So that's all there is to complementary angles. Know that they add up to 90, and we can identify them by that box in the corner that tells us it's 90 degrees, or if something tells us it's 90 degrees. Real quick again on supplementary angles, how we identify those is they're just a straight line. Anytime you see a straight line, you know, like in yellow here, it's 180 degrees is the measure of that angle anytime it's a straight line. That would also be true if I were to look at it on this side. On the underside, that's 180 degrees also. All right, now let's move on to the triangle sum theorem. So what this tells us is all three angles in a triangle, 1, 2, 3. Let's call this A, B, C. So all three angles in a triangle, A plus B plus C, they will always add up to 180 degrees. If it forms a triangle, the three angles will add up to 180 degrees. So an example of how we could use this, let's say this is 70 degrees, this one's also 70 degrees. So if these two are 70, what is C? Well, if 180 is the whole thing, so 180 minus 70 gives us 110, right? So minus that 70 minus this 70 gives us 70, so 40. So this angle up here would be 40 degrees. So just remember, anytime you see a triangle, all the angles, all three of the angles in a triangle will add up to 180 degrees every time. That's always true. And lastly, we're going to talk about vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent. Congruent means equal. They're equal to each other. So vertical angles are angles when we have two straight lines like this that cross. Vertical angles are angles that are directly across from each other. So an example of vertical angles would be these two. And if we knew, let's say we knew this one was 45 degrees, then that would also be true. This one has to be the same thing because they're vertical angles. So applying some of the other stuff that we use today, we could figure out this part here. Let's do it like this. We could figure out what's this. Using this straight line, what do we say? How many degrees do we know are in a straight line like this? 180 degrees. So if that's 180 degrees, and then we have 45 here. We already used up 45 of that 180. Subtract. What do we get? We get 135. 135 degrees. Now, this angle is directly across from this. So those are called vertical angles. And that's also 135 degrees. So in this situation here, we could be given just one angle and find all four of these angles based on that one angle that's given to us. All right, thanks again for spending time in math class with Mr. Kura, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.